The stars looked different from Earth now. After 48,000 years of space travel, humans had remapped the cosmos countless times. Standing on the observation deck of New Seoul Station, Director Jun Kim often found himself lost in thought, staring at the blue-green marble of Earth hanging below. "Sir, they're waiting for you," said his assistant, handing him a data tablet. Jun nodded, taking one last look at humanity's birthplace. How strange to think that their ancestors once believed they were alone in the universe. Those first tentative steps beyond their solar system had been taken by brave explorers in ships that would now be considered primitive. They had no warp drives, no quantum communicators, just hope and determination. "Has everyone arrived?" Jun asked, straightening his formal uniform. "The Andromeda delegation is running late. Something about silicon-based life forms needing special, atmospheric conditions." Jun smiled. In the early days, such differences had led to wars. Now they were merely logistical issues to overcome. Humanity had grown up. The long corridor to the meeting chamber was lined with artifacts from Earth's journey to the stars. A piece of metal from the first Mars colony. A flag from the Europa underwater city. The handwritten treaty that ended the Belt Wars. Each item told a story of struggle and triumph. "Director Kim." "A word, please," called a voice from behind. Jun turned to see Ambassador Dae Park hurrying toward him. The elderly diplomat's features still showed his human ancestry, though the larger eyes and slightly blue-tinted skin revealed his Jovian heritage. "Ambassador, good to see you," Jun said, clasping the man's three-fingered hand. "The Centauri delegation is nervous. Their homeworld's destruction has left them vulnerable, and some factions are pushing for isolation rather than supporting Earth's bid for council leadership." Jun nodded thoughtfully. The supernova was devastating, 20 billion lives lost in an instant. But isolation won't protect them from whatever comes next. They reached the grand chamber doors where representatives from hundreds of worlds waited inside. The fate of the galaxy would be decided in the coming days. "My grandfather used to tell me stories," Dae said quietly, "about when humans could only look up at the stars and wonder. Now the stars look to us for leadership." The chamber fell silent as they entered. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and compositions turned to watch the Earth representative approach. Some floated in special tanks, others required mechanical assistance to move in Earth standard gravity. But all were here for the same reason. "Director Kim," rumbled the massive form of Chief Speaker Turo, the last surviving member of the Proxima Centauri Council. "We were discussing the historical significance of this moment. Never before has leadership of the Galactic Council passed to a species as young as humans." Jun bowed respectfully. "Yet here we are, not because of our age, but because of what we've learned in our time among the stars." A ripple of agreement moved through the chamber. The humans' rapid advancement had surprised many older civilizations. In just 50 millennia, they had gone from launching primitive rockets to becoming a key player in galactic politics. "Some question whether Earth is ready for such responsibility," said a shimmering figure representing the collective consciousness of the Andromeda. "Your species still carries much of its earlier aggression, which has been tempered by experience," Jun countered calmly. "We've learned that cooperation achieves more than conflict. Our history taught us that lesson the hard way." The debate continued for hours. Jun presented Earth's case with patience and wisdom. He spoke of humanity's unique perspective as newcomers to the cosmic stage, their adaptability, their creativity in solving seemingly impossible problems. As the session ended, Jun returned to the observation deck. The great ships of the various delegations formed a glittering cloud around Earth. Some were biological constructs, others were mechanical marvels. A few were barely visible energy patterns. Such diversity, yet all part of the same cosmic community. His communication device chimed. It was President Haejin Lee calling from the surface. "How did it go?" she asked, her holographic image showing the concern on her face. "Better than expected. The Orion representatives are still against us, but we may have swayed the Andromeda." "And the threat assessment?" Jun's expression darkened. "Still being analyzed. If the reports from the Outer Rim are accurate, we'll need every world's cooperation, regardless of who leads the Council." President Lee nodded gravely. Keep me informed. Earth has come too far to fail now. As the call ended, June found himself thinking about the long journey that had brought humanity to this moment. From cave paintings to quantum computing. From stone tools to starships. From tribal conflicts to galactic diplomacy. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humans would face them as they always had, with determination, ingenuity, and hope. The journey had been long, but it seemed it was only just beginning. The grand meeting hall buzzed with voices speaking hundreds of languages, all translated instantly by the small devices everyone wore. Ambassador Daypark rubbed his temples, feeling the start of a headache. 3 straight days of negotiations had left him exhausted, but there was no time to rest. "More water, sir?" asked his aide. Noticing his discomfort, Day nodded gratefully. "Thank you, Jin." Across the room, the Andromeda delegation glimmered under the special lights designed for their silicon-based bodies. Their leader, a crystalline figure named Vex, was deep in conversation with representatives from the water worlds. Not a good sign. If they formed an alliance against Earth's bid for council leadership, dozens of other systems might follow. President Haejin Lee entered the hall, drawing all eyes to her. Despite being 157 years old, she moved with the energy of someone half her age, a benefit of modern medicine. Her silver hair was pulled back in a simple style, and she wore the traditional blue and green colors that had represented Earth in galactic politics for millennia. "Quite a gathering," she said, joining Day at his table. "I haven't seen this many species in one place since the Harmony Accords." Day smiled sadly. The Harmony Accords, 20,000 years of peace broken by a single supernova. Nature doesn't care about our treaties. A loud crash interrupted their conversation. At the far end of the hall, a Rigelian diplomat had knocked over a containment field, releasing a cloud of toxic gas. The hall's safety systems activated immediately, containing the spill, but the damage was done. The Rigelian and Andromeda delegations were shouting at each other, old tensions flaring up. "Here we go again," sighed Haejin. "Same arguments, different century." Day stood up. "I'll handle this." He walked calmly toward the conflict, positioning himself between the angry parties. At nearly 200 years old, Day was respected by both sides for his work during the Belt Wars. "Friends," he said, raising his 3-fingered hands, "let's remember why we're here. The previous council is gone. Without new leadership, trade routes will collapse, border disputes will flare up, and pirates will control the outer systems. Within a decade, the Rigelian ambassador, a tall, thin being with 4 arms, clicked its mandibles in annoyance. "And you think Earth should lead us? Your species isn't even fully unified. Half your colonies still argue about ancient Earth politics." "Which gives us perspective," countered Day. "We understand conflict and how to resolve it. We've made every mistake possible and learned from them." Back at the main table, Haejin was approached by a human-looking woman with subtly pointed ears. Mina, the representative from the oldest human colony, Nova Terra. "Madam President," Mina said quietly, "my people are concerned. If Earth becomes the council headquarters, will our needs still be prioritized? Or will we become second-class citizens in our own system?" Haejin had expected this question. Nova Terra had been settled 50,000 years ago, making them almost as old as recorded human history had been on ancient Earth. They had their own distinct culture, language, and traditions. Many viewed themselves as a separate species now. "Your concerns are valid," Haejin replied. "That's why we're proposing a rotating leadership system. Earth would host the council, but leadership positions would be filled from all systems equally." Mina looked unconvinced. "Pretty words. But when resources are allocated, will the homeworld not take care of itself first?" Before Haejin could answer, the lights dimmed and Director Jun Kim took the central platform. The room fell silent. "Distinguished representatives," he began, his voice calm but commanding. "Tomorrow we vote on the future of our galaxy. Let me address some concerns I've heard in the corridors." He touched a control and the air above him filled with holographic stars, a map of the known universe. Some fear that Earth seeks power. Let me be clear. We don't want this responsibility. We would prefer to focus on our own development, our own challenges. But the galaxy needs stability now more than ever. The map zoomed in on the remains of Proxima Centauri, still glowing from the supernova. Others worry about Earth's divided history. Yes, we fought amongst ourselves. Yes, we made terrible mistakes. But we survived them. We grew beyond them. Outside the windows of the hall, Earth glowed blue and green in the darkness. Clouds swirled across its surface, hiding the megacities and vast wilderness preserves that covered the planet. Look at our homeworld, June continued. Once polluted, overpopulated, and divided by invisible lines, now restored, balanced, and unified. Not perfect, nothing ever is, but always improving. In the back of the room, Admiral Sung of the Orion forces watched with narrowed eyes. His people had fought against humans in 3 different wars over the millennia. Old hatreds died hard. The human speaks well, whispered his aide. But can we trust them? Sung didn't answer immediately. He was watching President Hagen move through the crowd, speaking personally with each delegation. Unlike many leaders, she listened more than she talked. Trust is earned, he finally said. And we may not have the luxury of waiting. As the evening progressed, smaller groups formed throughout the hall. Agreements were made, compromises reached, ancient rivalries temporarily set aside. Day worked tirelessly, moving from one group to another, building bridges where he could. By midnight, exhaustion had taken its toll. As the hall emptied, Day found himself alone with June at the observation window, watching shuttles ferry delegates back to their ships. Do you think we'll succeed? Day asked. June smiled tiredly. Unity has always been humanity's greatest challenge. Now we're trying to unify an entire galaxy. But what choice do we have? The stars shimmered above them, countless worlds waiting for an answer. The quantum relay station hummed with activity. Its massive dish arrays pointed toward the edges of known space. Technician Jin Su adjusted his monitoring equipment for the 5th time that hour. Something wasn't right. The background, radiation patterns had changed, showing ripples where there should be only the steady hum of the universe. Hey Hana, he called to his supervisor. Can you check these readings? Hana Kim had been working at the relay station for 20 years. She'd seen solar flares, gamma-ray bursts, and even the light from the Proxima Centauri supernova. But the D pattern on Jin's screen made her blood run cold. This can't be right, she whispered. Run the verification protocol. 3 hours later, the observation deck of New Seoul Station had been transformed into an emergency command center. Director June stood before a group of ashen-faced scientists as they delivered the report. It's not a natural phenomenon, said Chief Scientist Young Ho. These are artificial signals, organized in a way that suggests intelligence. They're coming from beyond the outer rim. How far beyond? Asked President Hagen, who had joined via secure holographic link. Young Ho looked down at his datapad. Based on signal degradation, at least 12 galaxies away. The room fell silent. 12 galaxies was a distance almost beyond comprehension, and you're certain the translation is accurate? June asked. Young Ho nodded grimly. The message repeats across all frequencies. We are the void walkers we consume. We approach. Prepare or perish. President Hagen's hologram flickered slightly. How long do we have? 5 years. Maybe less. June paced the room, mind racing. Tomorrow was the final vote on Earth's bid to lead the Galactic Council. This news would change everything. We need to inform the delegates, he said finally. But carefully. If this creates panic, it might be exactly what we need, interrupted Admiral Sung, who had been listening silently until now. The Orion military leader's face was grim but determined. Forgive my intrusion, but my intelligence network detected the signal 3 hours ago. I came as soon as I confirmed it. June raised an eyebrow. The Orions having their own detection, System wasn't surprising, but Admiral Sung coming personally to an Earth facility was unprecedented. "What do you suggest, Admiral?" asked President Hagen. "The truth. Always the truth." Sung's voice was rough from years of commanding ships in battle. "I've spent my career opposing Earth's influence. My people fought yours in 3 wars, but this," he gestured at the data screens, "this changes everything." By evening, word had spread through the diplomatic quarters. The grand meeting hall was packed beyond capacity as representatives from every system demanded information. The atmosphere crackled with tension. Day Park worked his way through the crowd, trying to calm the more agitated delegates. Near the refreshment area, he found the Andromeda leader, Vex, surrounded by a group of worried representatives. "Is it true?" asked a small, furry delegate from the Sirius system. "A threat from beyond known space?" Vex's crystalline form shimmered with stress patterns. "We should evacuate immediately, return to our home systems and prepare individual defenses." "That would be suicide," Day interjected calmly. "Divided, we would fall one by one." The crowd turned to face him. Day hadn't planned to speak, but he couldn't stay silent while panic spread. "The only chance we have is unity," he continued. "A coordinated response across all systems." "Easy for Earth to say," countered Vex. "Your world would become the command center, controlling resources, making decisions." Before Day could respond, the lights dimmed, and Director June took the central platform. Beside him stood Admiral Sung, their former enemy now standing as an ally. The sight was so unexpected that the room fell instantly silent. "Distinguished delegates," June began, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. 3 days ago, our long-range sensors detected a signal from beyond our galaxy. He activated the holographic display, showing the raw data and translation. Gasps echoed through the hall as the meaning became clear. "The Voidwalkers," murmured someone in the crowd. "I thought they were just legends." "All legends have some basis in truth," said Admiral Sung, stepping forward. "My ancestors passed down stories of great destroyers that consume entire star systems. We believed they were myths meant to frighten children." The Admiral's presence on the platform with June sent a powerful message. If the militaristic Orions were standing with Earth, the threat must be real indeed. 5 years, June continued. "That's how long we have to prepare, not much time on a galactic scale." "What do you propose?" called out the representative from Tau Ceti, her voice trembling slightly. June took a deep breath. "Tomorrow's vote is more important than ever. Not because Earth deserves to lead, but because someone must. We need a unified command structure, shared technology, coordinated defenses." A nervous murmur ran through the crowd. Ambassador Mina from Nova Terra stood up. "And if we choose another world to lead?" she asked. "Then Earth will follow," June replied without hesitation. "This isn't about politics anymore. It's about survival." As the meeting descended into heated discussions, President Hagen moved through, the crowd speaking quietly with key delegates. In a corner, Day found himself face to face with Vex of the Andromeda. "Your people are young," Vex said, his crystalline voice tinkling like glass. "Yet you speak of unity as if you invented the concept." "We didn't invent it," Day replied. "We learned it the hard way. Earth nearly destroyed itself multiple times before we understood that cooperation isn't just nice, it's necessary." Outside the windows of the hall, the stars seemed suddenly cold and distant. Somewhere out there, something was coming. Something that had already consumed 12 galaxies. In his quarters that night, June couldn't sleep. The weight of tomorrow's vote pressed down on him like a physical force. If Earth was chosen to lead the new Galactic Council, they would face the greatest challenge in human history. If another world was chosen, would they step aside gracefully? He had promised they would, but after seeing the data, his communication device chimed. It was Admiral Sung. "Director Kim," the Admiral said, his face solemn on the screen. "My fleet stands ready to support Earth's leadership bid tomorrow. The Orion Protectorate will follow where Earth leads in this crisis." June nodded, understanding the significance of this moment. "Thank you, Admiral. Let's hope it's enough." As a new day approached, diplomats and leaders across New Sol Station prepared for the most important vote in galactic history. The crisis point had arrived. Dawn broke over the lunar surface, casting long shadows across the Grand Assembly Hall. Built within the moon's largest crater, the massive dome gleamed in the sunlight, its transparent sections revealing the blue Earth hanging in the black sky. Inside, final preparations were underway for the most important vote in galactic history. June straightened his formal uniform and checked his reflection one last time. Dark circles under his eyes betrayed his sleepless night, but there was no time to worry about appearances now. His communication device buzzed with an incoming message from President Hagen. "The Zoroastrians have arrived," she said without preamble. June nearly dropped the device. "The Zoroastrians? Are you certain?" "Their ship just entered orbit. They're requesting permission to address the assembly." This was unprecedented. The Zoroastrians, keepers of the galaxy's historical archives, hadn't participated in galactic politics for 15,000 years. Some younger species thought they were extinct. "Grant them whatever they request," June said, his mind racing. "I'll meet them personally." The docking bay was eerily quiet when June arrived. The Zoroastrian ship resembled a massive silver leaf, its surface rippling slightly as if alive. No one knew exactly what Zoroastrians looked like. They never left their environmental suits when meeting with other species. The ship's entrance dilated and 3 tall figures emerged. Their suits were made of a fluid metal that moved with them, catching the light in hypnotic patterns. The leader, slightly taller than the others, approached June. "Director Kim," the figure said, its voice melodic and gender-neutral. "I am Keeper Tao. We have watched from afar for many cycles. Now we must speak." The walk to the assembly hall was silent. Other delegates stopped and stared as the procession passed. Many bowed respectfully. The Zoroastrians were living legends, guardians of knowledge so ancient that most civilizations couldn't comprehend it. Inside the hall, delegates from 313 star systems had gathered. The room fell silent as June entered with the Zoroastrians. Even the normally rowdy delegates from the outer rim worlds sat in hushed anticipation. Chief Speaker Turo, the last surviving member of the previous council, raised his massive arms for silence, though none was needed. "Today we vote," he rumbled, his voice filling the hall. "But first we recognize Keeper Tao of the Zoroastrians, who wishes to address this assembly." Keeper Tao glided to the central platform, the metal suit flowing like quicksilver. For a moment, the ancient being seemed to study the gathered representatives, its featureless face turning slowly to take in the entire hall. "We have watched," Tao began. "For 15,000 years we have watched and recorded. It is our purpose, our calling. We do not interfere." The keeper's voice seemed to resonate with each person in their own language, bypassing the translation devices. "Today we break our silence. The threat you call the Void Walkers is known to us. They have consumed 12 galaxies in their endless hunger. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be appeased." Holographic images appeared around Tao, showing worlds being systematically stripped of all resources, reduced to lifeless husks. The images were so vivid that some delegates looked away in horror. 5 times before, galaxies have faced this threat. 4 times they have fallen. Only once did life survive, when a unified defense was mounted under wise leadership. The images changed, showing scenes of cooperation, vast fleets of ships, worlds transformed into fortresses. "We have observed all species in this galaxy. We have recorded their histories, their triumphs, their failures. In this time of need, this galaxy requires leadership that understands both unity and diversity." Tao turned slowly, facing the Earth delegation. "Humans are young. They have made countless mistakes, but they learn from these mistakes faster than any species we have encountered. They adapt. They overcome. They imagine possibilities that older, wiser species cannot conceive." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Day Park, sitting near the front, felt his 3-fingered hands trembling slightly. The Zoroastrian support was beyond anything they had hoped for. Admiral Sung of the Orion Protectorate stood up. "I have fought against humans in 3 wars. I have seen their ferocity, their determination, but I have also seen their capacity for mercy, for forgiveness. My people will support Earth's leadership in this crisis. One by one, representatives from key systems stood to pledge their support. The Andromedi, the water worlds of Tau Ceti, the hive minds of Betelgeuse, even Vex, whose crystalline form shimmered with newfound resolve, announced the support of the Silicon worlds. Not all were convinced. The representative from Nova Terra, Mina, approached the speaking platform. Earth is our ancestral home, she said, her voice clear but cautious. But many colony worlds fear that Earth-centric leadership will ignore our unique needs and perspectives. President Hagen stepped forward to address this concern. A valid worry. That is why we propose a council structure with representatives from all major regions, species, and cultural groups. Earth may be the headquarters, but decisions will be made collectively. Keeper Tau raised a metallic hand. Time grows short. The vote must proceed. Chief Speaker Turo nodded gravely. All representatives cast your votes now. The voting process was ancient and simple. Each delegate pressed their hand, or equivalent appendage, to a scanning plate that recorded their decision. The results appeared as a glowing holographic display above the central platform. June held his breath as the numbers materialized. For Earth's leadership, 287 systems against 26 systems, it was done. Earth would lead the Galactic Council. Chief Speaker Turo approached June, carrying the scepter of unity, a simple rod of unknown material that had been passed from one council to the next since before recorded history. Director Kim, do you accept this responsibility on behalf of Earth and its colonies? June stepped forward, acutely aware of the historical significance of this moment. I do. As his fingers closed around the scepter, a strange warmth spread up his arm. The rod glowed faintly, acknowledging its new bearer. Speak the words, Turo prompted. June raised the scepter high, and in 17 different languages, one after another, he recited the ancient oath. We stand together as one galaxy, now and for all time. The assembly erupted in applause and various signs of approval from species that didn't have hands to clap. Even the most reluctant delegates seemed caught up in the historic moment. After the ceremony, June found himself standing with Day, Admiral Sung, and President Hagen in a quiet corner of the hall. It's just the beginning, Hagen said softly. The real work starts now. Admiral Sung nodded grimly. 5 years to prepare for an enemy that has destroyed entire galaxies. Not much time. But we have something they don't expect, Day replied. Unity. Outside the Great Dome, Earth continued its eternal dance around the sun, oblivious to its new role as the center of galactic governance. The decision had been made. The future of Earth, of humanity, of all sentient life in the galaxy, now hung in the balance. The orbital platforms around Earth had never been so busy. Construction drones swarmed like metallic insects, building new diplomatic quarters, defense, installations, and docking facilities. From his office window in New Sol Station, June watched as another massive structure took shape, the Hall of Worlds, where representatives from all member systems would gather. Quite a view, said a voice behind him. June turned to find Keeper Tau standing in the doorway, the Zoroastrian's liquid metal suit rippling gently. I didn't hear you come in, June said, bowing slightly. We move quietly, Tau replied. A habit formed over millennia of observation. Together they looked out at the transformation happening around Earth. In just 3 months since the historic vote, the planet's orbital space had become the busiest hub in the galaxy. Ships arrived hourly, bringing materials, technology, and representatives from hundreds of worlds. Are we moving fast enough? June asked quietly. Tau's featureless face turned toward him. The Voidwalkers approach at their own pace. What matters is not just speed but purpose. Every action must have meaning. Down on Earth's surface, changes were happening just as rapidly. The first act of the new Galactic Council had been to share terraforming technologies developed by human scientists. These were now being deployed to help displaced civilizations establish new homes on previously uninhabitable worlds. In the Sahara region, Once a vast desert and now a managed grassland, Chief Engineer Minho supervised the construction of a training facility where species from across the galaxy could learn Earth's terraforming techniques. "The soil composition is wrong," complained a representative from Tau Ceti, a water-based being floating in a specially designed hover tank. "Our worlds require more selenium." Minho wiped sweat from his brow. "Then we'll adjust the formula. That's the beauty of this system. It's customizable for different planetary conditions." Working alongside different species wasn't always easy. Some breathed different air mixtures, others moved in ways humans found unsettling, and cultural misunderstandings were constant. But the shared threat of the Void Walkers pushed everyone to overcome these challenges. Meanwhile, at the lunar military headquarters, Admiral Sung met with Earth's top defense officials. Holographic displays showed the current distribution of ships across the galaxy. "Not enough," Sung said bluntly, pointing to the outer defense perimeter. "We need early warning systems here, here, and here." Fleet Commander Jun nodded in agreement. "Production of new vessels is at maximum capacity. Every shipyard in 17 sectors is working around the clock." "It won't be enough," said a new voice. They turned to see Vex of the Andromede gliding into the room, the silicon-based being's crystalline form reflecting the light from the displays. "Conventional ships and weapons cannot stop the Void Walkers," Vex continued. "They've consumed 12 galaxies. They've faced standard defenses before." Admiral Sung frowned. "What do you suggest?" "My people have been developing crystalline technology that can disrupt the energy patterns the Void Walkers use for communication. Combined with Earth's quantum weaponry, we might have a chance." This was happening across the galaxy. Ancient rivals sharing closely guarded secrets, combining technologies in ways never before imagined. The Jovian colonies offered their atmospheric manipulation systems. The Orion Protectorate provided their advanced cloaking technology. Even the reclusive minds of Betelgeuse contributed their predictive algorithms. Back on New Sol Station, June met with President Hagen in the newly established council chamber. The room was designed to accommodate all forms of life, with sections for water breathers, low-gravity species, and even pure energy beings. "The archives from Zorastria have arrived," Hagen said, gesturing to a data crystal on the table. "Their knowledge spans 5 million years." June picked up the crystal carefully. "Their support has changed everything. Without it, we'd still be arguing about who should lead." Hagen nodded. "But leadership comes with a price. The Outer Rim colonies are demanding more resources for defense. The inner systems want to focus on evacuation plans. We can't do everything." "We have to," June said simply. In the weeks that followed, Earth's orbital stations expanded faster than seemed possible. The construction wasn't always pretty, function taking priority over form, but it was effective. Diplomatic quarters housed representatives from hundreds of species, each contributing their unique perspectives to the growing coalition. There were setbacks, of course. A miscalculation led to a structural failure in the eastern quadrant of New Sol Station. 3 ships collided in Earth orbit when translation errors confused traffic control. Food shortages on several newly settled worlds created tension and blame. But for each problem, solutions emerged, often from unexpected sources. When the food shortages threatened to derail the alliance, it was the ancient Zoroastrians who provided forgotten agricultural techniques suited to harsh environments. When communication systems failed between silicon and carbon-based life forms, human linguists worked with Andromede scientists to create a new hybrid language. 6 months after Earth's selection as Council headquarters, Day Park stood in the completed Hall of Worlds for the first time. The massive chamber could hold representatives from all 313 member systems simultaneously. The ceiling was a perfect recreation of the galaxy, each star marking a world united in the alliance. "Impressive, isn't it?" said Mina, the representative from Nova Terra, joining him. Their relationship had been tense during the selection process, with Nova Terra initially opposing Earth's leadership bid. Now they found themselves working closely together. "We've come," So far in such a short time, Dee replied. But sometimes I wonder if it will be enough. Mina's expression grew serious. The latest reports from the outer detection grid show unusual energy patterns. The Voidwalkers may be moving faster than we thought. Before Day could respond, a soft chime announced the day's council session. Representatives began filing into the hall, some walking, some floating, some shifting like shadows between light fixtures. June took his place at the center of the chamber. As director of the Galactic Council, it was his responsibility to guide these diverse beings toward consensus. The scepter of unity glowed softly in its holder beside him. Friends, he began, his voice carried to each delegate in their native language. Today marks 6 months since our alliance was formed. We've accomplished much, but our greatest challenges lie ahead. He activated the central display, showing the defense networks taking shape across the galaxy, the newly established colony worlds, the combined fleet growing day by day. From across time and space we have gathered here, different in form, in thought, in history, but united in purpose. Earth, once an insignificant blue planet orbiting an unremarkable star, now stands as the center of the greatest alliance of sentient beings ever known. As he spoke, June felt the weight of history on his shoulders. Countless decisions still to make. Countless lives depending on those decisions being right. The Voidwalkers were coming, bringing with them a darkness that had consumed entire galaxies. But looking around at the diverse assembly, at the determination in so many different kinds of eyes, he felt something else too. Hope. Not just for survival, but for something new. Something better. Beyond the walls of the Hall of Worlds, Earth turned serenely in space, its blue oceans and green lands visible from the great windows. The cradle of humanity now served as the cradle of a new galactic civilization, one forged not in peace and prosperity, but in the shadow of extinction. It was not the future anyone had imagined, but it was the future they would build together, one day at a time, ready to face whatever the universe might bring.